She looked at me like she already knew what I shouldn't be thinking. That half-smile, the one that never quite reached her eyes, was enough to make my pulse stumble. Clara. My mother's older sister's best friend. The kind of woman people lowered their voices around, as if speaking too loud might break the spell she carried with her. She wasn't trying to be beautiful. She just was, the kind that made you forget where you'd left your drink, your words, your sense of timing. It started at the small gathering her aunt hosted on a warm evening that smelled faintly of cut limes and tired laughter. I was helping clear dishes when she walked into the kitchen barefoot, glass of wine in hand, her loose shirt half-tucked like she'd dressed without thinking too hard about it. "You don't have to do that," she said, setting the glass down beside me. "I don't mind," I answered, rinsing another plate. "It's quieter in here." She nodded once, as if she understood exactly what that meant. The room felt smaller then. Not crowded, just full. She leaned against the counter, her hip brushing the edge of my elbow. I caught the faint scent of cedar and something floral, not perfume, more like what lingered in the air after someone walked through a garden. "How old are you now?" she asked, though her tone didn't sound curious. It sounded like memory. 27, I said. She smiled at that, small, knowing. "Of course you are." Silence pressed in again, heavy but not uncomfortable. The faucet hissed softly. Somewhere down the hall, someone laughed too loud. She lifted her glass, realized it was empty, and set it down again. "Clara, right?" I said, though I already knew. She looked at me over her shoulder. "You remember." "I remember a lot," I said. The words slipped out before I could pull them back. Something flickered in her eyes, not surprise, not quite. She looked at me like she was trying to decide whether to step closer or walk away. "Be careful with that," she said quietly. "With what?" "Remembering." Her voice wasn't teasing. It was the kind of tone that carried a history, even if I didn't know it yet. She reached past me to grab a towel, her arm brushing my shoulder. The touch was nothing, really a small thing, but it sent a pulse through my chest that made me forget the next plate in my hand. "Sorry," I said, though I didn't know what for. She didn't move back. "Don't be." The air between us went still. The kind of stillness that hums. She studied me, eyes moving not in judgment, but like she was looking for the edges of something she hadn't seen in a while. I wanted to say something, anything, to break the current running between us, but every word felt like it might ruin it. She finally exhaled, a quiet laugh slipping out. "You make it hard to stand here and pretend I don't notice things." My throat went dry. "What kind of things?" She smiled again, slower this time, softer, but no less dangerous. "The kind I shouldn't." Her aunt's voice floated in from the living room, light and amused. "Clara. Don't tell me you're in there flirting with my nephew." Clara didn't turn. She just sighed, the corner of her mouth curving into a smirk that could undo anyone if they looked too long. Then she said it, low enough that only I could hear, "You're exactly the kind of mistake I'd make again." And before I could answer, the kitchen door swung open. The night after that gathering, I couldn't stop replaying her voice, the way she'd said it like a confession disguised as a joke. "You're exactly the kind of mistake I'd make again." It wasn't the words that stuck. It was how she didn't look away afterward. A week later, I saw her again. My aunt had asked me to drop off a box of books Clara had borrowed, some old poetry collections. I told myself I'd just leave them at the door. But when she opened it, barefoot again, her hair tied up messily, I forgot every reason I'd rehearsed for not staying. "Eli," she said, surprised but not unhappy. "You didn't have to come all the way here." "Wasn't far," I said, holding up the box. Her home smelled faintly of rain and coffee grounds. There were papers scattered on the dining table's essays, maybe letters. She gestured for me to come in. "I was grading," she said, collecting a few sheets into a pile. "It keeps me from thinking too much." "Thinking about what?" She smiled without humor. "Everything." "Nothing." That kind of answer should have ended the conversation, but instead it drew me closer. She poured coffee, 2 cups, even though I hadn't asked. Her hand brushed mine when she passed it over. It was a small, fleeting touch, but it stayed. You always notice things, she said after a while, leaning against the counter. Like what? The way you look at people. It's not casual. I almost laughed. You make that sound like a crime. Sometimes it is. Something in her tone shifted then, not warning, but memory. I wondered who had looked at her that way before. Who she'd tried to forget. She turned away, adjusting the window blinds though the light outside was already dim. You should know, she said softly, I'm not good at this. At people getting close. Why? She hesitated, then shrugged. I got used to being the person people confide in, not the one they stay for. The honesty in that broke something quiet inside me. I wanted to reach out, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I said, you don't have to be good at it. That made her look at me. Really look. Like she was measuring the space between us and wondering what it would cost to cross it. She moved past me toward the sink, her shoulder grazing mine again, deliberate this time. The soft brush of her sleeve against my arm sent heat up my spine. You should go before my aunt calls asking what took you so long, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. I set the coffee cup down and stepped toward the door. Do you want me to? Her hand caught my wrist just for a heartbeat, then fell away. I don't know yet, she said. I nodded, unsure if I was breathing right. Then I won't. She didn't stop me when I left, but as the door closed, I felt her nearness linger like a touch that hadn't quite happened. It was supposed to be simple, dropping by to return the borrowed mug I'd forgotten to wash. That's what I told myself. But when Clara opened the door, hair damp, sweater sleeves pushed up to her elbows, that excuse felt like something I'd made up for a reason I didn't want to name. She blinked, then smiled faintly. You really didn't have to bring it back tonight. I know. We stood there for a second too long. She stepped aside, and I stepped in. The air in her apartment was warm, scented with something faintly citrus, like she'd just cleaned. Coffee, she asked, already reaching for a mug. Sure, I said, though what I wanted wasn't in the cup. She poured, careful, deliberate. The silence stretched. Every sound, the clink of ceramic, the faint scrape of a spoon, felt amplified. When she handed it to me, her fingers brushed mine again. Neither of us moved. Her voice softened. You keep finding reasons to come by. Maybe I ran out of excuses, I said. That made her look up. For a heartbeat, her face shifted, a mix of something like want and warning. Don't, she whispered. I'm not saying anything. That's the problem. Before I could reply, her phone buzzed on the counter. My aunt's name lit up the screen. We both froze. She glanced at it, then at me, and silenced the call without answering. The room changed with that small act. Like something had crossed a line neither of us had admitted was there. I shouldn't have, she started. Yeah, I said, cutting in too fast, because I didn't trust what she'd say next. She looked at me for a long time, really looked. Her lips parted like she might speak, then closed again. I set my cup down, the sound too loud in the quiet kitchen. Do you ever wish things were easier? She laughed under her breath. Easier never lasts. Then, almost without thinking, I reached to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. My hand hesitated halfway, but she didn't move. Her eyes met mine, unflinching, unreadable. Eli, she murmured, and the way she said my name felt like a boundary breaking. My hand hovered near her jaw. I could feel her breath against my fingertips, soft, uneven. She leaned closer, just enough for me to feel the warmth of her skin. Then a knock shattered it. We both jumped. A neighbor's voice carried through the door, casual, oblivious. Clara? You dropped your mail again. She stepped back fast, one hand to her neck. I could see the pulse there, quick and fragile. Give me a second, she said, voice unsteady. She opened the door just a crack, took the envelopes, murmured thanks, and shut it again. When she turned back, we both knew what almost happened. She tried to smile, but it wavered. This can't it can't be anything. I nodded, but didn't move away. Then why are you still standing there? She asked. Because neither of us did anything, I said quietly. And somehow that feels worse. She didn't answer. Just closed her eyes for a moment and didn't tell me to leave. I hadn't planned to see her again that week. But some things don't wait for permission. It was late, the kind of hour where the world feels quieter than it should. Her apartment light was still on. I told myself I was just walking by. That lie didn't even last the length of the sidewalk. When she opened the door, surprise flickered, not anger, not relief. Just that pause before deciding which mask to wear. Eli, she said softly. It's past midnight. I know. Her robe was tied loose at the waist. Her hair was damp again, curling near her collarbone. There was no music, no TV, only the low hum of the fridge and the sound of our breathing filling the space between us. Did something happen? She asked. Yeah, I said, and then, quieter, I can't stop thinking about you. She froze. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Then she turned, walking toward the window, arms folded like she was holding herself in place. You shouldn't say that, she whispered. I tried not to. Eli, I'm not asking for anything, I said, though my voice betrayed me. I just needed you to know. She laughed, barely. You think this is easy for me? She stopped herself, eyes closing. You're young. You'll wake up one morning and regret all of this. Do you? She turned back to face me. Every second, she said. And still. The word hung there, unfinished. I stepped closer, slow enough to give her time to stop me. She didn't. The air between us tightened, heavy with everything we hadn't said. I shouldn't let you in, she murmured. You already did. Her hand found the edge of the counter, something to hold on to. I reached up, brushed a strand of hair from her face. She didn't flinch. My fingers grazed her temple, lingered against her skin just long enough to feel her tremble. Eli, she said again, voice smaller now. You have no idea what you're doing. Maybe not, I said, but neither do you. She exhaled sharply, not a sigh, more like surrender. This is wrong. Then why does it feel like the only thing that's real? She shook her head, eyes glossy, mouth set like she wanted to be angry but couldn't find the strength. You make me forget how old I am. You make me forget I'm supposed to care. That broke something open, a silence, a line, I couldn't tell which. She stepped forward until I could feel the warmth of her against my chest, the faint scent of soap and wine and something unguarded. Her fingers brushed the collar of my shirt, hesitated there. My hand slid to her waist, light, uncertain, but hers didn't move away. Tell me to stop, I said. She looked up, eyes dark, unsteady. I can't. For a suspended second, the world disappeared, her breath, my heartbeat, everything folded into that one impossible moment before gravity decided what came next. And then a knock. Hard. Urgent. Her name through the door. Everything shattered. The knocking didn't stop right away. Clara's pulse beat fast against my chest before she pulled back, eyes wide, breath caught somewhere between panic and want. It's my sister, she whispered. She's supposed to be out of town. I stepped back as she smoothed her robe, forcing composure onto her face. By the time she opened the door, her expression was something practiced, calm, polite, unreadable. Her sister, Mara, stood there, damp from the rain. I tried calling. You didn't answer. Clara smiled thinly. I was in the shower. Mara's gaze flicked past her, straight to me, my jacket half zipped, shoes still wet by the entry. I see. The silence that followed had weight. Clara cleared her throat. Eli was just dropping something off. Mara tilted her head. At midnight? No one spoke. I could feel Clara's body tense, a quiet tremor running through her arm as she kept her grip on the door. Finally Mara sighed. I don't care what this is, Clara. Just be careful. She pressed a small envelope into her sister's hand and left. The door shut, but the air didn't clear. It just changed, denser, sharper. Clara leaned against it, eyes closed, the envelope trembling slightly between her fingers. I told her I'd stopped, she whispered. Stopped what? She looked at me then, raw and tired. Letting people close when I know it can't end well. I took a step closer. You think this is already ending? I think it was never supposed to start. The envelope slipped from her hand, papers scattering across the floor, a letter, a photograph. I bent down, picked one up. A younger Clara, laughing beside a man, not posing, just caught mid-smile. Who's he? I asked softly. She hesitated. My ex-husband. Mara sent those to remind me what I ruin when I stop thinking. I handed it back, but she didn't take it. He left, she continued quietly. Said I made him feel invisible. I guess I believed him for too long. Her voice cracked on that last word, small and sharp. Without thinking, I reached for her hand and she didn't pull away. Do I make you feel invisible? I asked. Her breath hitched. You make me feel seen. That's the problem. We stood there, inches apart. Every breath between us seemed to draw us closer. She reached up, fingertips brushing the collar of my jacket, stopping just shy of my skin. I can't lose control again, she murmured. Then stop pretending you already have. Her eyes flashed, a mix of fear and something deeper, something hungry. She stepped back, pacing once, then stopped, facing me. You should leave before I forget who I'm supposed to be. Who are you supposed to be? I asked. She exhaled shakily. Someone who knows better. But when I moved toward the door, she didn't open it. She just stood there, chest rising fast, eyes searching mine, and said, almost breaking, Don't come here again, Eli. Unless you mean it. And then she turned away, as if walking toward the one thing she already knew she couldn't resist. 3 nights passed without a word. Then she called. One sentence. Can you come by? When I got there, her lights were dim, curtains half drawn. She stood by the table, sleeves rolled up, hair loose, like she'd been trying not to think and lost that fight hours ago. I didn't know if you would, she said. I wasn't sure I should. She nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. You shouldn't. Neither of us moved. The silence between us felt alive, pulsing with everything left unsaid. I set my jacket down, stepped closer. Then why am I here? Because, she whispered, I asked you to be. That broke the distance. She turned, facing me fully now. I could see the strain in her shoulders, the way she held herself, like one deep breath might undo her. You said I make you feel seen, I said quietly. You do that to me too. Her throat tightened. You don't understand how dangerous that is for me. Then help me understand. She laughed, soft, pained. You think I haven't tried to stop this? Every night I tell myself I won't let you back in. But then I remember your voice, or something you said, and it's like my body doesn't care what my mind decided. I stepped closer until I could feel her breath. Then stopped deciding. Her hand came up, fingers brushing the side of my face, a small, trembling touch that felt like surrender. Eli, I caught her hand, pressed it against my chest. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll walk out that door. She didn't. She looked up, eyes searching mine like she wanted to find a reason, any reason, not to give in. I don't want to lose myself again, she said finally. Maybe that's the point. Her breath hitched, shallow. The air between us felt thick, heavy, charged. She reached up, her fingertips tracing the edge of my collar. I leaned closer, slow, deliberate, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. When our foreheads touched, the world went still, no sound, no distance, just the sharp awareness of skin and air and the thrum of hearts too close to pretend anymore. Her lips hovered inches from mine. If this happens, she whispered, we don't get to pretend it didn't. I don't want to pretend, I said. The pause that followed wasn't hesitation, it was choice. She closed her eyes, and when she finally leaned in, the kiss wasn't perfect or careful. It was years of restraint breaking, of fear turning into something fierce and fragile at once. When it ended, we didn't move. Our foreheads still touched, breaths tangled. "This won't be easy," she murmured. "Nothing real ever is." She smiled then, small, tired, real. "God, you're going to ruin me." "Maybe we'll ruin each other," I said. And for the first time, neither of us stepped back. Morning came slower than usual, soft and gray, the kind of light that doesn't demand you move right away. Clara sat by the window, hair tousled, a blanket draped over her shoulders. Steam curled from the mug in her hands. She looked like a secret I wasn't supposed to find but somehow did anyway. I watched her for a while before she noticed me. "You're staring," she said, voice still husky from sleep. "Yeah," I said. "I've been trying to convince myself this is real." She smiled, small, careful, but not the kind meant to hide. "It's real. That's the scary part." I walked over and sat beside her, close enough that our knees brushed. She didn't move away this time. The quiet between us wasn't heavy anymore, just full. "I keep thinking about what people would say," she said after a moment. "About us?" "I've already thought about that," I said. "It doesn't change what's here." She looked down at our hands, then slowly slid her fingers into mine. "You make it sound simple." "It is. We're the ones who make it complicated." She laughed quietly. "You sound so sure." "I'm not. But I know I'd regret walking away more than I'll ever regret this." That silenced her. She took a slow sip of coffee, eyes on the rain tracing lines down the glass. The world outside felt far away, a moving picture we no longer had to be part of. "You know what I thought last night," she said finally. "That you'd wake up and see me differently. That I'd just be older." I turned toward her. "You are older. You're also the most alive person I've ever met." She blinked, caught off guard, and for the first time I saw her drop all the walls she built around herself. "You don't say things you don't mean, do you?" "Not to you." Her eyes softened, and she leaned her head against my shoulder. I could feel her smile against my sleeve. We sat like that, quiet, steady, real. After a while, she spoke again. "This doesn't have to be perfect. I just want it to be honest." "It already is," I said. She tilted her head up, and I kissed her forehead, a simple, grounding touch that said everything words couldn't. The rain kept falling outside, steady and rhythmic, like it was keeping time for us. She reached for my hand again, fingers threading through mine, thumb brushing the back of my palm in slow circles. "I used to think love was supposed to look a certain way," she whispered. "Now I think it just has to feel like this, like peace after too many storms." I nodded, pulling her a little closer. "Then we're already there." She smiled, eyes half closed. "Don't go anywhere." "I'm right here," I said. "I'm not going anywhere." And for once, neither of us needed to fill the silence that followed. It said everything. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?